Welcome back, listeners, to Learning from Friends. My name is Kate Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure. I'm excited to say today is the 50th episode of Learning from Friends. I'm surprised myself that I've made it this far, but also at the same time, excited that I've got to share so much with you from my friends and my family and continue to get to do that with you. In today, as we start in with every podcast, my mom's quote of the day. Mom, take it away.
Here's a quote from a girl named Maja. You look in the mirror and you see yourself, but not really. It's not you at all. I mean, there's your eyes and your nose and your cute little smile, but that's not all there is to you because you're not seeing the amount of the lives that you've touched with your presence. You're not seeing all the people that you've made smile and laugh.
Thank you, Mom. As always, now coming on 50 episodes, every single one of your quotes has always been phenomenal and a great reminder of how amazing of an individual you are and an inspiration to me, but also what you're able to do for the people around you, being a teacher for how long you were as well. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, as well, for being supportive over the years of all the different things that I've always been involved with. So if you have the opportunity, say thank you to your parents, say thank you to your family, your friends, because that's very important in surviving of who you are. And that's part of what Learning from Friends is sharing that joy and that knowledge from everyone kind of around you. So to start with today, the topic, this will be the first time that I have more than one guest on the podcast. Today, I have two guests that are coming on with me. And speaking of parents, they're parents themselves. We're going to be diving in today, talking about what it's like having a family that has a child that is diagnosed with special needs. They have a child that has been diagnosed with Down syndrome, and it's really neat to talk about the advocacy and to talk about their experiences, because that's one thing that you hear about and you see kind of out there what's being distributed, but sometimes you don't get the full parent's story. And that's what we're going to kind of focus in on today. Brandy, Carl, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, I know Brandy, and that's how we're kind of connected in. How do we know each other, Brandy?
Well, I work with you at Mill Creek Middle School.
Yeah, and a former guest, Ryan Cherry. It's his classroom that he runs, and she actually runs the classroom. Ryan, let's be honest here. She runs the classroom. She has control over it. You lose things, you get things lost. Ryan, we love you to death. But I got to have fun poking a little bit. Thank you for keeping him on track and organized.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
And what's funny is how did we first start talking? I'm going to see if you remember this.
Ryan Cherry actually let me know that you were a huge wrestling fan, and I sought you out to talk to you about AEW, and we've been fast friends ever since, actually, because we're both hardcore wrestling fans.
And that's something you don't find a lot of.
No, it isn't.
And that whenever I came over for Christmas as well, for the Christmas party, I sat down and got to talk to Carl, and that was just awesome, getting to shoot the breeze for so long of just talking wrestling and sports in general. So that was just so cool to kind of find people like that in your life.
It is very fun to find your village of wrestling fans, for sure.
Now, we're going to go with 99%. I always like to say 90, 95, 99%. Have no clue who either of you are. Can you give us like a little bit of like a Wikipedia page summary that if someone was to look it up, what would they find? Carl, I'm going to let you go first. Then we'll go Brandy.
Probably played a lot of sports growing up. In addition to being a huge wrestling fan, I'm also a huge Star Wars fan. So my kind of claim to fame is that one year at Dragon Con, I placed second in the Star Wars trivia contest.
Nice.
I have a little trophy up in the closet, and I got my picture on theforce.net for a week. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
How many contestants were there?
Started out with, I think, 88, 89.
Wow.
And myself and the gentleman that won, we answered so many questions correctly, they ran out of questions.
Now that's amazing.
Yeah, so the panel, which was two of the actors from the movie and one of the authors, were literally coming up with questions not just from the movies, but from all of the books as well, the expanded universe series. They were literally thinking things up on the fly, and we had a massive audience outside the ballroom because we were taking up their time because the next event couldn't get started until we had a winner. So that was actually pretty cool.
That is pretty epic to think that they'd be able to go through it. Do you remember the question you missed? I'm just curious.
Yes, I do remember. That'll haunt me till my last day.
That's why I figure I didn't figure you remember it.
It was asked by the actor who played in episode 2, Attack of the Clones. It was the little boy who played Boba Fett. Of course, he was a grown man by then. But the question was, who was Boba Fett's mother?
I don't even know the answer.
Myself and the winner, we stared at one another for a second, and he literally got the answer out. We said it at the same time, but he started speaking first, so he was awarded because as soon as he opened his mouth, it hit me. He has no mother. He's a clone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man. See, I don't know a lot about the Star Wars universe, and that's pretty cool to think.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a fun night.
That I can believe. How many Dragon Cons have you gone to?
Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. 5 or 6.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's right here in Atlanta. So
it is. 2 of the years I got a hotel room downstairs, stayed the whole weekend. The other years I would just go for a Saturday or a Sunday. It's gotten pretty expensive, and it's gotten the autographs have gotten to the point where I don't want to pay for them anymore.
Yeah, because I imagine they keep getting more and more expensive.
They went from $20 per autograph to now $50 to $60 per autograph, and
that adds up fast.
It does. So no, that was a really great night though. So that would be what would be on my Wikipedia page.
There we go.
Yeah.
Brandy? I guess mine's a little more detailed than that. I would say things about me that are pretty interesting is that I was actually born and raised here in Cherokee County, and my parents live about 4 miles from me, so I'm super close to home. I grew up on a working farm.
I didn't know this.
Yes.
I did as well.
Pigs and cows and chickens and horses and the whole nine. I think along Carl's same line, I'm a huge 1980s fan. I was raised in the 80s, love 80s music. Huge Billy Idol fan. I have seen him more times than I care to count.
Everybody's got the thing that they love.
Yeah, everybody has their thing that they love. Huge fan of horror movies, a huge fan of wrestling. So I'm kind of a quandary as far as like girly things. And then, I'm a mom and a stepmom. And yeah, so I'm just me.
We'll have to talk farming later. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's something that we'll have to sit and discuss later. That's exciting. So before we get started and deep into the topic, there's so many misunderstandings that people have about children and adults with disabilities. Is there anything that you would like to clear up before we get started?
I think the biggest thing for me that I would like people to get from the podcast and clear up now and then maybe bring it full circle would just be to see the ability rather than the disability.
Yes.
See the person for what they can do first as far as what they cannot do.
And speaking from I don't know about adults with disabilities, but children, they're just like all the other kids.
Exactly.
They might act differently or look differently depending on their circumstance in life, but they a lot of times don't even know that they're different. So they just want to be included in everything like everybody else.
Indeed. That's 100% right on when you get into that area. And there's some vocabulary and jargon that's going to kind of come around. Is there any jargon that you want to kind of introduce first to kind of say, hey, we're going to mention this probably about 4 or 5 times, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you like a definition.
Sure. I think one that we'll probably talk about is Trisomy 21, which is the official definition or the official
medical
term of Down syndrome. Another one is, we'll mention it further down the line, is IEP, which is your individual education plan. And just a couple of other ones I would think of would be DSDN, which is the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network, is a great program we'll talk about later. And those are really the only ones that come to mind right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I'm sure they may pop up, and
Sure.
I may ask, hey, what does that mean? I'll ask, but it's always good just to kind of throw a little bit out there, because as an educator, we just start going IEP 504,
Yes.
and we expect people to know it, the
Correct.
alphabet soup.
Yes, correct. Correct.
To start off diving into our conversation here, what is Down syndrome?
So Down syndrome is a genetic disorder, for lack of a better word, that results in the duplication of the 21st chromosome to where Jacob, our son, he has 3 copies of the 21st chromosome rather than just 2. So he actually has 47 chromosomes rather than 46, which is what neurotypical people have. So that's the definition of trisomy of Down syndrome, or trisomy 21 is 3 of the 21st chromosome.
Now, how does that affect a person?
Our genetic counselor, when we first received his diagnosis, actually prenatally, we received his diagnosis. She described it very layman's terms for us. And the way that she described it was that each chromosome and each DNA strand, think of that as a file cabinet.
Okay.
And each chromosome has information in it that it releases at the proper time. So a child meeting a certain milestone of talking at a certain age or walking at a certain age. And with the 21st chromosome, that contains a lot of DNA and information about muscle tone, cognitive development, and things like that. And with the children with Down syndrome in particular, those files can be released too much or too little, causing characteristics like almond-shaped eyes, hypotonia, which is very loosey-goosey muscles. If you've met Jacob, he's super...
He's a contortionist.
He is super
Yes.
bendy, but he has a lot of muscle too. And so, just narrow passageways in the nose and ear canals and things like that. Not only are his normal muscles loosey-goosey, but inside of him, the muscles you have inside are loose as well. So I would say a big, what's the word I'm looking for? Characteristic of folks with Down syndrome is a lot of them do have heart defects. We're very fortunate that Jacob is cleared by a cardiologist. He has no heart defects. But a lot of Down syndrome children do require open heart surgery within the first 6 months of life for holes in their heart or ventricles running the wrong way and need to be corrected and things like that.
Sometimes it's just not strong enough.
Yeah. So those are just some of the small characteristics about, small stature is another one. Jacob, again, is not one of those.
Defies that odds.
Yeah. Those are some of the characteristics of Down syndrome and what that looks like is, so once those files, so to speak, are released in that DNA, it can cause the almond-shaped eyes and the loosey-goosey muscle tone and the smaller airways and the smaller nasal passages and stuff like that. So
it's the communication that's really kind
it's
of
the
just going
communication
through.
of that DNA in releasing it into the body, and it just makes them look a little bit different than
It's
ours
not done in
does.
the same order that it would be a
Right.
neurotypical person.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some interesting facts that maybe people don't think about when it comes to Down syndrome diagnosis? Because there's lots of information that's out there, and some people don't think about, oh, wow, like, really, this is something that's extremely knowledgeable. Or, oh, like, I never thought about that being connected to this at all.
Sure. I think the one that's most recently the one that we've encountered is that Down syndrome people can have the only one set of teeth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jacob actually
That was our reaction as well. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Entirely.
Jacob is actually missing, based on a recent dental visit, he's actually missing 8 adult teeth. So his baby teeth are his teeth.
And if they fall out,
Then we have to
there'll be
do the whole
implants or
implants
partials,
and-
whatever it is. That'll be a
Yeah.
conversation for another year.
So that's one of the things that amazed me, that it wasn't even a blip on my radar until I started talking with other moms of children with Down syndrome, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you need to get that checked out." And I was like, I had no idea. I had no clue. And I think another thing we'll talk again, it'll tie into some of the things that we talk about as we go along, but he doesn't regulate his temperature well. So he doesn't sweat.
He can, but it's too late when he does.
Gotcha.
So he can get cold very quickly, and he can also get overheated very quickly. So he's not a big sweater, and he also won't tell you when he's cold either
No.
until he's blue.
And
So-
if
Oh
we're,
gosh. Oh,
he doesn't go outside a lot in the summer.
that's a hot.
Yeah.
Especially Georgia.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, we'll go to the neighborhood pool, but we'll go at 10 a.m. We'll take him swimming at 10 a.m. The water's a little cooler, which he likes. But if we're out and about outside and say 4 p.m., in August, if he starts to get lethargic, get him inside, get him cooled down, because that's the first sign of he's overheated. We knew about it, but we had to let him get to that point once to kind of know where that point was.
As a parent, you have to kind of learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as a parent of a child with Down syndrome, you learn the signs quick.
Yes.
And you don't forget them. So you don't do it twice, kind of thing.
Right.
So
True. Yeah, because that could turn into a medical emergency.
Absolutely.
Like that entirely.
Yeah, I mean, those are two of the most interesting things that I have learned. Again, we've learned recently that comes to mind that people probably don't know and probably wouldn't consider when encountering somebody with Down syndrome. So I know it's not too glamorous, but
No, it's interesting to
Yeah.
think about that. That's everybody's body is different.
Yep.
Everybody has different little cues. Like I have psoriasis and eczema, and I know so many different random facts about it because it's something that I live with and deal with, and
Right.
everybody has their own little
Yeah.
things that are special about them.
yeah,
Now, people can be very rude and mean. And what are some of the most aggravations, annoying situations that you face when people being a parent?
Well, so anything that I've seen to this point in Jacob's life has mostly just been staring, which it doesn't affect me in the same way that it does Brandy or other people. Because I'm typically like, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to other people, so I don't even notice sometimes if they're staring. But that's the biggest thing I notice.
he's not
is
rude
that,
though. I promise.
I can be. I just don't care. You get a lot of staring, and sometimes it's, are they staring because he's in a wheelchair, or are they staring because he looks different? You don't really know, and it's like, glance at him, fine, because he looks different than you do. So okay, I can accept. But then almost like how like a little child might stare constantly because they don't know any better. When you start to get that stare from adults, it's like, okay, that's annoying, and that's a little rude. That was the one kind of first thing that jumped out for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I think that Jacob is definitely an anomaly. He has a lot going on.
Yeah, he has more than just
medically.
Down syndrome
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
He has a lot going on medically. So, but when we take him out places, definitely the staring, again, being a mom, I think Carl gave his perspective on it from being a father, but being a mom, it hits a little bit more of my feelings and my heart because that's my baby. I'm proud of him regardless of what he looks like, what he needs to have, mobility and things like that. And the children staring, I can stomach most of the time. But again, we have encountered adults who, again, like Carl said, stare a little too long. And, are they looking at him because he's cute? Are they looking at him because he's being loud? Is he because he's in a wheelchair? And that's probably the most aggravating thing, I would think, personally.
How do you recommend kind of the people kind of change or approach differently on that? Do you have any suggestions for people?
Yeah, just just because somebody looks different, it's not a reason to stare at them for too long. Just, oh, wow, that kid's different. Okay, and then now move on with your day. I mean, a 2 to 3 second stare because he does look a little different. I can understand that because I might unconsciously do that myself, and if until somebody points it out to me, I wouldn't know it.
Yes.
But if you're going to stare for that long, come and ask me a question. And let me explain it to you, because I have no problem answering questions if somebody's legitimately curious as to why he's in a wheelchair, or we do get a lot of folks who recognize the Down syndrome, the look on his face, and they'll want to come over and say something. And we appreciate that. But it's, if you're going to stare, come ask me a question and show me that you're willing to learn.
That's great advice. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, again, just on the flip side of it is, if you have the opportunity, just expose not only yourself, but your children to people with different abilities or disabilities. So you kind of remove that natural instinct to stare. And I hate that staring is the most annoying thing that aggravates us, but that's just kind of where we are.
Yeah, he just hasn't had the opportunity in life yet to have been picked on like some other kids I know have faced, or even adults have faced. He's 5 years old. He's in an isolated classroom at school for various reasons, but so he's just not exposed to a lot of those things. And I'm certain that one day he will be.
Yes.
But, so a lot of the things that kids like Jacob experience that are maybe older than Jacob, he hasn't gotten there yet. He hasn't been exposed to enough people for them to be rude to him yet. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It does.
And I don't think people are going to, like, if we're out at the grocery store or something, nobody's going to be rude to him with she and I standing there.
True.
Because people always, when they walk away, have something maybe to say under their breath or not in front of somebody, because it's easier to speak behind someone's back than it is to their face. And that's the part that's kind of sad to me.
Right.
That someone would even want to say something.
I agree. And like I said, they're not going to do it with she and I there. I mean, I'm a big guy with constant RBF. So I don't invite people to speak to me if you don't know me anyway. And I'm not even the one you need to worry about if you're rude to him. I might look like I'm the one you need to worry about, but I'm really not.
And then, if you want to look at him, that's fine, but smile. Yeah. Even if there's a part of you that wants to stare, just smile at us, because the smile for us, like somebody just glancing at him and being like, he is totes adorbs. Like just,
we do get a lot of that. We do get a lot of that.
That makes our day, because we're just like, oh, they just smiled at him. And it really, for me, it lifts me up, because it's like, all right, like I'm out here like changing the world one
a smile
at
can
a time.
Change an entire person's day.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing at the end of the day. And anything of happiness and joy can change something, because you never know if that's the only time someone's getting smiled to or getting complimented in a day.
Right.
That is 100% for sure there.
Yep.
There's a lot of adversity that you face once you start having children and then you start going through parenting. What are some adversities that you have faced since becoming parents?
I would think that the biggest adversity for myself as a mom, I've seen a meme recently that said that people expect you to work like you have no children and parent like you have no job. And, Jacob's first year and a half, 2 years of life were very, very tough for us. He was in the hospital quite a bit. And so I think that the biggest adversity that we faced within those first 2 years was just that work-life balance. And sometimes those roads literally were parallel to one another. I was working in the hospital. I was, making phone calls for work in the hospital while I'm trying to juggle a doctor coming in and getting him fed and having blood drawn and things like that. So just finding my niche of a place that I can not only fulfill my wants as Brandy, but also finding somewhere that's going to support and understand that I'm also a special needs parent who sometimes has extra things. And so just finding a place of employment that can understand that has been kind of adversity for me. But fortunately, I'm in that position now, and I feel very supported, and I have a good support system and our administration, and even my teacher and the other para in the classroom. So that's definitely been a big thing for me, is just those two roads literally, or sometimes even not only parallel, but they're the same road. Yeah. So that's been pretty extensive for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I work from home, and I was work from home pre-COVID.
Okay.
So I was the COVID was not the reason.
Nothing new for you. You were used to it all.
Correct. Yeah. So it's just like Brandy, when Jacob has been in the hospital, I think I counted once he's had, I think 11 or 12 hospital stays total, anywhere from 2 or 3 days to a full month. But I'll work, if I have the ability to work from home, I have the ability to work from the hospital. It's that part for me was not the challenge that it was for Brandy, technically needing to report to an office every day. But it's been a blessing in that if Jacob's sick, he can stay home. Well, I'm already home. I don't necessarily have to take a day off. I do have to adjust my day, but I don't have to take the whole day off necessarily. For me, it was the fact that it's hard to find childcare if we want to go on a date or
I did not think about that.
Or even like a vacation, like not a full week, just a long weekend.
Yeah.
Because, Brandy's parents have been phenomenal. They've been, they have
Shout out mom and dad.
Right.
Whoop, whoop.
They've kept Jacob from day one. I mean, her dad retired around the time Jacob was born and was like there as soon as Brandy got off maternity leave, he would start keeping Jacob.
That's amazing to get that support.
So they're used to him. They know how to take care of him. They know even when something difficult comes up, they know what to do. But you can't just hire the 17-year-old kid 2 streets over to come care for Jacob.
That's very true.
They could be the most responsible kid you've ever met, but they still require a lot of training. Mm-hmm. And they still need to know what to do if something bad happens. So that's been the biggest struggle, is not just being able to say, hey, let's call up a babysitter. We'll pay him $80 for the night and we'll go out on a date. We can't do that. Like things like that for Brandy and I have to be planned out well in advance, which for a date night kind of kills the spontaneity of it, but it is what it is. I mean, you just have to learn to adapt to that.
That's how it is, like with families that have someone who works a night shift and who works day shift. Because if my dad worked night shift, majority of my early childhood of that, and so like seeing my parents adapt that. That's with any family, you have to learn to adjust with anything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, what's a kind of a day like of like waking up in the morning into evening, kind of at night? Because that can be a lot.
Yeah, it is.
The biggest thing day to day is Jacob is not yet walking. They know that he will. But like everything in Jacob's life, it's on his schedule and on his terms.
Yeah.
And nothing else. So we have to carry him downstairs to, feed him or get in the car to go to school or whatever. Set up the wheelchair. He has to be transported everywhere. So he's either in his wheelchair or someone is carrying him physically. So from a day-to-day thing, that's really the biggest to me, is the fact that, up and down the stairs, whatever it is, that he has to be carried everywhere. And he's getting bigger.
You got that body strength though. That's the whole thing at the end of the day. You got
don't have a choice.
I think that, but as far as like what a typical day looks like, Jacob and Carl and I, and even Jacob's stepbrother when he's here with us, or half brother when he's here with us, my stepson, we're very schedule oriented. We are up at 6:30. We are out the door at 7:05. I'm to work by 7:50, and everything happens on a schedule. Jacob's feeding regimen, as far as when he gets his meals, is the exact same time every single day. And even though that sounds very mundane, it makes our life easier because we know we can plan around those things, because we know we have we have aqua therapy after school today. We need to do this to prepare, and
certain things are set in stone, and then you can
work
evolve the day around those.
So
things that are set in stone.
Our day, Monday through Friday, looks the exact same.
Yep, and the schedule, he is scheduled, but Jacob is more of a routines kid than a schedule. So you can get the times off a little bit and he's okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's not his body clock doesn't say it's 3:00, where's my food?
Yeah.
But if you get till 4:00 and there's no food,
then we're going to have a problem.
You're going to have a big problem. So but Jacob thrives on routine. So when he thrives, it makes our life easier.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. That's
Yeah.
for sure. I definitely say that I'm a schedule person when it comes to getting
Yeah.
things in place. That could be anybody on it, but knowing that's kind of like a safety thing as well, like survival thing of, okay, if I know X, Y, and Z is coming up, if something bad's happening, if we've missed this, okay, how can I be able to regiment
Right.
myself back? That
Yeah.
goes back to our survivalists as cavemen and cavewomen.
Sure.
Yep.
So
I mean, that's the good part of it. I think that the bad part is that I think there are some days that we both literally like pass out before our heads hit the pillow, especially on long days with him,
Yeah.
appointment after appointment and therapies and just, his energy level right now. I think that that's one of the things that sometimes we find ourselves exhausted, and that leaves little room for each other. So, we just try again the next day. But that's one of the downsides of it is, there does definitely become a level of exhaustion that I never knew.
now, mental health wise, how do you both take care of yourself in a mental health kind of direction for it? Because if not, it could lead to a lot of burnout very
Yeah.
quickly. And unfortunately, in a lot of homes, I can't remember what the percentage is, but there's a high divorce rate
Yes.
in a lot of that community, and that's really challenging
Yeah,
to see.
the divorce rate among special needs parents is 80%. And I think for me, mental health wise, Carl gives me the flexibility to plan things with my girlfriends or to attend a special needs support group or to, go places with my coworkers and things like that. And, again, with the routine, I go upstairs in the evenings, I get us ready for the next day, and then I just kind of chill and watch Netflix and whatnot. So that's mental health for me is getting out, but then also just being upstairs and not having to worry about is Jacob taken care of, because I know Carl's got it.
Yeah, and it's very similar for me. I mean, I don't need, for my own mental health, I don't need the number of, that probably sounds bad, but the number of breaks necessarily that she does. Like, she will go out with her girlfriends to a painting class or something like that. And, I'll get together with some of my friends and we'll go to a wrestling show.
yeah,
right?
buddy.
Right, exactly. But as you know, they're not running shows in Atlanta every weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
you got space gaps. Yeah.
right. So it's long, but I think, again, going back to me working from home during the school year, I've got a quiet house till 1:30. So that helps me, is just the silence, and then Jacob comes home at 1:30, Brandy's home 4-ish or whatever. But then, she'll go upstairs and kind of get her peace and quiet time while I'm downstairs in the evening feeding Jacob his dinner, and I'll watch whatever TV show I can find that Brandy disapproves of. And,
You always have to have that separation.
exactly.
It's a true statement.
Exactly.
True, very true.
So, but I'm a lot more of a chill person anyway. Like it's really easy for me to let a lot of things roll off my back. So I don't need as much, but again, working from home helps out tremendously because even though I'm working, I know Jacob's at school taken care of. I know Brandy's
Yes.
at work, and she's at work, she's at a job she enjoys, so I don't have to worry about that.
Woo!
Right.
Good job.
So I can just, I can take a break and go do half of our grocery shopping at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday
And it's
because my
right
job
there as
allows
well.
me to. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So, that's kind of why I don't necessarily need the going out with friends as much, as because I've got the solitude that helps me during the day.
Yeah.
So-
Everybody has their own different comfort zones of stuff. Like an
Right.
evening for me, like, and my wife Katie are two totally different worlds of like, her best night is, okay, I've got, some food, I've got a good movie, leave me alone, Cade. Go out, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna meet up with Ryan, I'm gonna meet up with other couple of people, we're gonna go down to have a drink or two, and then I'll see you around midnight. It's like, but that's just different social aspects from people. I'm a big people person, and she likes her people, but it's very much
Right.
just different elements.
I agree with
But
that.
it works for you, so neither is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just because it's different doesn't always mean it's wrong.
Yeah, and I think with Carl, like he said, his need for social interaction with his friends, he gets bigger allotment of time with going to a wrestling show, because it's like sometimes it can be 8 or 9 hours that they're
totally.
gone.
Yeah.
And and the way I look at it is like, sure, you go to your wrestling show 4 times a year with your buddies that you love. And then that will, that 8 hours will get me at least 3 nights out with my girlfriend.
There you go. It's an exchange there.
Exactly.
It is,
It's
yeah.
an exchange.
Yeah.
It is. It really, really is.
Yeah, time-wise, it pretty well equals out at the end of
Exactly.
the year. Yeah,
Right.
Now, there's lots of positives and negatives that come along with doctor visits and everything. What are some big successes that you've seen over the last 5 years? You said Jacob's 5, correct?
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, the biggest success was at the end of last year. You want to speak to that?
What was that? I forget.
Your last meeting with Dr. Holt?
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot. That's so terrible of me. Jacob also, in addition to Down syndrome, he has a seizure disorder. And for 4.5 years, we have had abnormal EEGs, which means that there's seizure activity.
Okay.
Mostly recently, it had been during sleep. So those are still kind of delaying his development a little bit. But in January, we got the good news that we have a normal EEG.
Woo!
Awake and asleep. So that means that there is 0 seizure activity. And Dr. Holt told us that during that visit in January, don't be surprised if he starts doing a lot of things that he hadn't done before. That he said, don't be scared. It's just going to start happening very quickly because his brain is getting healthier. So yeah, so that
playing
was
catch up.
Playing catch up.
Yeah.
So
It's that one thing that's now opened up.
Yep. And so, he's not exhausted from his brain, firing off like all this electrical activity. Mm-hmm. And so, that's been a huge success. And then most recently, I think that he's starting to drink from a cup on his own and he's starting to feed himself. So those are 3 big ones that have happened within the past 3 months. So yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when he started sitting up unassisted was a huge thing for us because he went forever not being able to do that. Mm-hmm. And now they're working on, I mean, he's gone in just a year's time from he could not sit up on his own to now they're trying to work on him pushing himself up out of a chair to stand in a year.
Yeah.
Nice. That's very quick.
Right.
Yes, it
and,
is.
And for a kid that could, for over 4 years, all he could do was at most roll. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So a lot of I say our collectively, us and Jacob, successes have been in the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because the first 4 years were really spent chasing the problems and trying to solve them. Well, now a lot of them have been found and solved, and now he is the one benefiting from that.
There you go.
Progressing, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, are there, you were saying like the doctor's visits, is there different types of doctors that he's able to kind of go to help with treatments and therapies and stuff that are out there?
All of them.
He sees all the ologists.
If your title,
I like that.
If your title is ologist, he sees you.
Yes. I mean, I could bore you with the list, but yeah, he sees a developmental pediatrician, a neurologist, an orthopedist, an ENT, endocrinology, pulmonology, speech therapy, occupational therapy, feeding therapy, music therapy, physical therapy, aqua therapy. What else does he have? I mean, ophthalmology. That's another. We did that today. Just again, all the ologists. If you have an ologist, he sees you. Chances are. So.
And then the regular pediatrician.
And then gastroenterology. That's another one.
Yeah.
And I think being near Atlanta, major city, the doctors I bet are capable really well doing here. Because if you imagine if you lived out in a further rural area, it'd be a lot of travel back and forth.
Yes, absolutely. We are very, very blessed that, all of his providers are either in Kennesaw or Sandy Springs, which is not terribly far. So we're very, very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, out to North Druid Hills is the furthest we have to travel.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No,
that's
not at all.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's the furthest. And they're starting, that office at North Druid Hills is starting to get satellite offices in Kennesaw. So
even
that's helping
closer.
out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
That's definitely when, especially at some times of the day, whenever you're going down that direction, traffic, you can get stuck for like 30 minutes when there's not even a wreck. You're like what's happening here?
I know.
It's funny though, when your child's primary pediatrician is also the one that is the least in the loop of what's going
Yeah.
on.
Wow.
Because he sees all the ologists and all the everything else
true.
more than he sees her.
Yeah,
he
he only
sees her
sees her-
just to get if he has a cold, you know, something like that, or just the annual checkup.
Right.
And so his annual checkup, most of that time is spent catching her up on.
This is what's happened.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
She can read it in the chart, but we can explain it in a lot less time than it would take her to
She
read
sees
it.
him.
Exactly.
She sees him typically twice a year. Everybody else, it's usually every 6 months. So
Or shorter.
or
Yeah.
shorter, depending. Yeah.
No, everyone has their own favorite parts of being parents. What is some of your favorite parts of being parents?
I'll let you answer first.
My favorite part right now is because he is just within the last probably 6 months started to really get interested in toys. And so a lot of kids, a lot of like neurotypical kids, they get a toy and they're bored with it after a week, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, Jacob will have, like, he still gets the same joy out of his toys now that he did on Christmas morning.
That's
Right?
amazing.
Yeah. So, and just watching him roll around his little enclosed playground area that we have for him and playing with all the toys that, you know, he's not yet bored with, and he still gets this wide mouth smile on his face playing with the same toy every single day. It's really cool to watch.
And that teaches us a lot as well, being able to, hey, enjoy what you have, and you don't have to have the new shiny thing every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you brought out any of your old toys to kind of share with him, or you've purchased to kind of try to pass on or to relive some memories of, man, I remember when I was his age.
No, not yet. Because we have to be careful. He has to have toys that are softer.
You could have themes, like Star Wars themed stuff all the time.
Well, so yeah, we do have a couple of he's got someone in, was it Florida? Someone when the Mandalorian first came out, right? So everybody was obsessed with Baby Yoda,
yeah.
right? Brandy found someone online and she hand knitted a little Baby Yoda for him. That it was a one-off when we got it, but then she put it on whatever social
Etsy or
media
whatever,
thing, and
yeah.
then everybody had to have one, but we were the first.
Yeah.
But that's kind of one of those things. Like, I don't know if I want him to play with that. I want that to be on the shelf in his room, like just looking cool,
something looking down over top of him.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah. So, but that's, as far as like favorite part, like that's, you know, that's one of them, and just the joy that he gets out of just the simplest things. It's just really cool to watch.
I think my favorite part of being a parent, and every day is my favorite part, but my favorite part is I like to go a little over the top with his birthday party every year.
Oh, dude, you're invited this year, by the
Yeah,
way, when you hear what
yeah.
it's going to be about.
Oh, man.
So we,
I'll have to mark my calendar.
yeah, so we, you know, I just go over the top with his birthdays, and I love doing that. We've done, you know, a shark theme because his initials spell Jaws.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What?
And
It was unintentional, but about 5 seconds after we landed on his name, we both realized
Yeah.
JAWS was his initials.
That's
So
legit.
his whole room is decked out in sharks.
yeah. And then one year we did a carnival theme. One year we did 80s, which was a little bit to my love, you know. And then one year we did a luau.
That was last year.
That was last year.
Parents get to vicariously
Yeah.
live through the children.
And then this year, you know, he'll be 6 this year, so he's going to be the 6-time world birthday champion.
Oh,
it's going to be
that's
Wrestling
It's
themed
going to be
birthday.
wrestling
Wrestling
themed
themed.
birthday.
And I mean, we might need you to show up in some pink and black, you
do
know,
that.
repping some Bret Hart.
I can do it.
All right.
I will gladly cosplay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
I
You've got the wrestler's hair already going.
This is true.
so-
It's already here.
Yeah.
I'll put some to make it darker, so it's black, so it actually
Yes,
fits more of the front.
yes.
And then
thing
dump
for it.
6 bottles of water on it.
You gotta have
Totally.
water.
And I'll get the baby oil. We'll just dump it on,
Yes.
so it's actually get the.
Now we're
you know,
talking.
the
But
full
I think
bit.
that's my favorite part is getting to plan his birthday party every year. It's so lame, but it's just
we all have our joys.
it brings me joy because I get to celebrate. Number one, I did a lot of work on that day, and then number two, we get to celebrate him, and
Yeah.
we have our friends and family, and they just shower him with love, and it's just too much fun, and so it's just a big celebration. So that's probably my favorite part of each year.
What advice would you give to you have a community there built for you? You have a community that's around you. What do you recommend for family members, for friends, for neighbors, for communities, and just being able to have that awareness and just understanding, but also how can they be able to kind of contribute in a way?
Yeah.
Because you have to build, your friends are the family you choose.
Exactly. I agree with that 125%. I think for me, being a mom is, again, I think it goes back to what we mentioned at the top of the podcast, is that Jacob just wants to be included just like everybody else. But I think that not only does Jacob want to be included, but Carl and I want to be included. If you're our friends or thinking of doing something, like, don't not invite us because we think we have too much on our plate. Let us decide and give us grace that we could say, hey, we're coming, and then the next thing you know, Jacob has 102 fever and we're headed to Scottish Rite and sorry, we're not coming. I think that just allowing us as a family grace, and then again, just even including us just as parents as well, because we do have a life that we try to foster outside of being Jacob's parents. And I think that friends and family and the community can just kind of be like, okay, well, how can we make sure that they can come? How can we adapt this or make it more inclusive and things like that? Those are the things that come to my mind, if that makes sense. Hopefully
it totally does.
Yeah,
it totally does.
And that was going to be, what I was going to say too, is if you want us to go out to dinner with you, be prepared that we might have to say no 5 times before we're able to say yes. Just from the standpoint of being able to get someone to care for him while we're out, if we go out without him, kind of thing, or understand that if we bring him, there's going to be a certain point where we have no choice but to get him back home.
Yes.
Based on something to do with his daily schedule. So, just grace and patience with us. But don't forget about, don't assume we can't go just because we have a child with special needs. Mm-hmm. Don't make that assumption. Let us be the one to
things for others. I hate when that.
Yeah.
You can't put someone's words in someone else's mouth.
Right. But, understand that just because our answer is no more often than not, we still want to be included. So just be patient with us and we will get there. And our closest friends understand that and do. Absolutely.
I would agree.
And that's something that does take time for people to understand, that they don't. A lot of the times as you said, a lot of people don't give people grace. They don't understand that, hey, okay, the social norm of, if they're not coming this time, or they haven't come the last 5 times, maybe they don't want to. That's a barrier that has to be kind of broken sometimes from people.
Yes.
And to get to understand that it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I agree.
Now I'm going to go sideways a little bit from talking about that to education, because that's my brain. I don't know how that slipped this far down on it. It was education, because he's now in elementary school.
He is.
And did he go to pre-K before going into elementary school? Because what age did he get his IEP?
So he was in a in-home daycare here in our neighborhood until he was 3, and he received in-home therapy services from a program that's, I'm pretty sure, statewide, called Babies Can't Wait.
I love Babies Can't Wait.
Yep.
I love that program.
And he did that until he was 3. And then he started the special needs pre-K program here in the county in September of 2020. And he started at Little River Elementary School.
What an interesting time to start.
I know, right?
With all the COVID and stuff going on.
And so that's when he got his first IEP.
Virtual learning was interesting with that.
Yeah.
I saw plenty of virtual learning that was interesting in all different worlds.
Right.
Everybody was trying to figure it out.
So, September of 2020 is when he had his very first IEP, or individual education program.
He's only in kindergarten, but this is his 3rd year at Little River.
And he loves school. Capital LOVE, loves school.
He loves that school.
There we
loves
go.
School.
Yeah. And they love him.
They do.
That's part of the community, right?
Yes.
Even when you
absolutely.
have a good teacher and you have that stuff in place, it makes a world of a difference. Because I have some friends that they have kids in school and they're like, we hate sending our kid to school because that no offense, there are good teachers, there are bad teachers, there's indifferent teachers, and it's just, if you're in special education, you need to love what you're doing.
Agreed.
And if you're past that point, please step away and go to another spot that you feel
Correct.
can be neat. Don't
I agree.
Don't stick around there and collecting a paycheck, or don't stick around there just because of you're something familiar to it, because of you are affecting more than just what's inside your classroom,
Absolutely.
and that goes a long way.
Yes,
in
I
life.
agree.
Yeah, I mean his his teacher and his para are great. He had another para that moved on to a different school, but she has made sure, she fell in love with Jacob so much, she's made sure to stay in touch, to the point that she is actually a babysitter for us when we
That's
want to
amazing
go out.
to have that.
And we trust her implicitly because she cared for Jacob
Oh, yeah.
in the school, in the classroom, Monday through Friday for what, a year or two?
Yeah, a year.
So, she knows all of his ins and outs. So we don't bat an eyelash at leaving him with her here for if we want to go out. So it's been good.
Yeah. But that's, when he got his first IEP was in that September of 2020. And it was a process, but, it wasn't nearly as daunting as I thought it would be, which is nice. Yeah, I mean,
And the biggest part of the process was trying to figure out which classroom would best suit what his needs were.
correct.
So once they got that figured out, all the other IEP meetings since then have been
Smooth. Yeah.
exactly.
It
Yeah.
helps to have a good facilitator as well.
Yes.
That's the one thing as well. Having a good facilitator, having a good team lead that's there in place, it
Yeah.
really does go a long way.
Yeah. Did that answer your question about the education
Oh,
plan?
totally did.
Okay.
Totally
Okay.
did answer that.
Yeah, and definitely having a good rapport just with the whole team in general is really important.
Communication.
Communication.
Yep.
All of his, his teacher, his para, all of his therapists, the facilitator, and then also here recently, I've been bridging the gaps of them being able to communicate with his outside therapies that he receives.
Oh,
so
good.
why don't we get all the people that are caring for him involved and talking to one another, so we can, make him the best Jacob that he can be.
Yeah, and when everyone's communicating, it's okay. You're not repeating something, or hey, I can be
Right.
able to expand on that because I have this skill.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
a lot of that too is, it's not just on the educators to work with him. I mean, the parents
True.
have to be, involved, and maybe even more so than a than a neurotypical or general education student. Like you need to, we get constant reports from his teacher about just even as simple as Jacob was very happy today, but and if we don't get it, we're emailing and
You're a
texting
little
saying
worried. Yeah.
what's going on. Like it's not even so much as a worry. It's like, we're not helicopter parents, but at the same time, it's like we have a child that needs more. So we're going to do our due diligence on our side to make sure we're getting the information out of you, because teachers are busy.
Yeah, I
So
know that feeling.
right.
Yes, you
So
do.
maybe you don't have the time to write the notes for today. So if I'm asking you for them, it's not because I'm mad or
You-
gosh,
you
he
just
didn't
wanna
do his
know
job
and be
today.
involved, yeah.
But it's like hey, just as a reminder, so it's the parents have to be just as involved as the educators do.
And having parents like yourself goes a long way as an educator too, to know how we can best help your child. Because there's many points in time where I want to help. There may be an issue with discipline here. And if I don't understand what's happening at home a little bit, to be able to, maybe that the male voice of mine is really scary to him, because there may be an issue going on at home there. And so me raising my voice or not and maybe I need to raise just a little bit in order to get his attention, that would be nice information to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But at the same time, he didn't sleep last night. It'd be nice to know, okay, let him sleep for like 5-10 minutes and let him come back out. Or if he's sleeping, maybe there's a medical condition that we don't know about that's brand new.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
correct.
So it's a good two-way street conversation.
Yeah.
Speaking with like two-way street conversation and everything, getting support is not always the easiest, and knowing where to get your resources from. What is some good places that people could be able to go to get support within the community or kind of within the state? Because there's a lot of
Sure.
programs out there that other people just
Absolutely.
don't know.
Yeah. I think I could probably speak to that a little
You
bit better.
can, because you have found them all.
Yeah. I definitely think that the first thing that comes to mind immediately is DSDN, which is the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network. And they're nationwide. And, if you are in the hospital with a child who has Down syndrome, you reach out to them, they send you a gift basket, like they give you, and there's a million Facebook pages, Instagram pages that you can follow, and moms, just supporting one another. Or if your son, in my example, he's not walking yet and he's not feeding himself, mostly just yet, things like that. There's a lot of resources to like pick each other's brains or say, hey, what do you think of this, or where are you in this journey, and things like that. You have your local Down Syndrome Association. So here in Georgia, we have the Down Syndrome Association of Atlanta. They've been really critical for us in helping us during Jacob's hospital stays. The executive director is amazing. She'll come by.
Drop by to check on him.
That's another level right there.
She will come and sit with him while I go out. If I'm at the hospital, she'll come and sit with him while I go out and get a cup of coffee and call Carl for a few minutes and just get outside. So that's another reason. For Down syndrome in particular, there's Gigi's Playhouse.
Gigi's
Playhouse, which is in Roswell. They have another remote location in Atlanta as well. That is a play place or a learning center for children with Down syndrome, and they offer music classes and crawlers and walkers. Well, they do free occupational therapy, or they do Teen-tastic nights, which is they get a bunch of teenagers with Down syndrome together to cook a meal, or and things like that. So that's a good resource. I mean, again, Babies Can't Wait is a fantastic resource.
Yep.
There's so many. I could go on and on and on. But those are the big ones.
And that's one thing that I will be putting in the show notes for anyone that's listening of, hey, this is some links that I'll have there that you can be able to click through and go through, because that's something I always try to do for the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's always legislation and all kinds of stuff that's going on. Are there any pieces of legislations or laws that you would like to see better addressed, or that they're acknowledged, some that are out there that you say are going in the right direction?
The most recent one that I've actually caught wind of within the past probably 6 to 8 months, and I believe it did pass in January of this year, it's called Gracie's Law.
Gracie's Law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is GRACIE's law. And up until that law was passed in the state of Georgia, if you were a person of disability or with a disability of any sort, intellectual, developmental delay, mobility issues, you were not very likely to get an organ transplant. And a family in Florida actually started because their son with Down syndrome actually passed away because he was not put on a organ donation list because he had Down syndrome.
Oh my word.
So they passed that recently here in Georgia with a family that I believe is based out of Macon. Don't quote me on that specifically.
I know they're getting
it's a podcast. You're on record.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
I signed the waiver. Waiver. But they're just working to get that passed here in Georgia, and I think that's amazing, considering that Down syndrome, one of the big side effects of that is heart defects. So having the ability for people with intellectual developmental disabilities to be included on a donor list despite of having those disabilities is huge.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never even think about that, of that's something that's there, but that's part of
the life
society
expectancy. I think it was back in the 1980s, the life expectancy of a person with Down syndrome was around 25. And now the life expectancy is 60.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there's, there's definitely some strides. And then again, just with the organ donation, with that being possible now, we could even extend that past 60.
And entirely. And that's the cool thing in the medical field, how it's advancing daily on things that are being discovered, and people are willing to kind of take that research in order to get there. I mean, it's technology as well, getting people communicating with each other around to be able to share the research and stuff goes a long way.
Well, the for me too, the other side of that argument is, and this is just speculation, but were they not eligible because they had a shorter lifespan than you or I? But why shouldn't they live a happy 30 years?
True.
If they lived a happy 30 years and you lived a happy 75, both happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So
happy.
Right. So they shouldn't be deprived, even if their lifespan is technically shorter. They shouldn't be they shouldn't be deprived of the ability to live it to the fullest that they can, even if it's not as long as you or I.
Agreed.
Yeah, but that's the biggest one that has been really pushed in the Down syndrome community recently is Gracie's Law here in the state of Georgia.
Again, thank you for kind of sharing that little bit of information there, because that's something that I try to keep my ears and eyes located in what's going on, but there's things that always slip through the cracks, especially with today in the political atmosphere of how charged so much of it can be, and you can hear 30 different things at once, and you never know what's what. So I wish the best on for that. That's a challenging job for anyone. Trying to do that. And that's why I'm so glad we have good advocates that are out there in order to help kind of push for this change and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, how could somebody, it could be a person, it could be a group, how can they be a good ally to the special needs community?
I think, again, just going back to what we said at the top, is just inclusion.
Inclusion is the biggest thing.
Inclusion is the biggest thing. And inclusion doesn't necessarily look like adapting things so Jacob can do everything that a neurotypical child can do. But just the simple fact of including them is huge.
Yeah, and so just as an example, there's even though Jacob, has all these current limitations, he is a part of a baseball league.
Yeah,
it's called the North Metro Miracle League.
Yes.
It's for really any person, because they have an adult league too, so it's not just children, but any person with disabilities, physical or mental, is allowed to play. And Jacob, they pull his little wheelchair up to the plate and they help him hold the bat, and he hits the ball off the tee, and then someone pushes his wheelchair to first base, and he gets to not run the bases but roll the bases, and
he loves it.
He absolutely loves it.
I can imagine the smile and the giggles and stuff that's coming up.
But a couple of times a year, there is a travel baseball team here in Georgia that will come and volunteer with the Miracle League. So the kids that, what would you say, 11, maybe 10, 11 years old, something like that?
Well, there's a couple of middle schoolers.
Okay, so maybe even older. So they come and they volunteer to basically be buddies with the players. So
that's amazing.
Like last year, they had 2 kids that zeroed in on Jacob, and they pushed his wheelchair around the bases the whole game, and or they'll, if a kid that can walk and run, they'll run beside them and just encourage them to.
The encouragement's a huge one.
Yeah, but it's it's getting these other kids in this baseball league that aren't always exposed to people with special needs. It lets them know, hey, these people are pretty much the same as you.
Oh yeah, entirely.
They may not have the skills that you have to play traveling baseball, but they're still pretty much just like you. Like you said, being inclusive, it just brings them all together. So anytime you have the opportunity to volunteer for stuff like that, it's because any organization like that doesn't have enough volunteers.
Yeah.
So anytime you can do stuff like that, that's volunteer your time any kind of way within that community, and it helps.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's wonderful words right there. We've covered a lot of information here. Are there things that I didn't cover that you would like to discuss? Because there's always something that is overlooked in my brain, because I only can think so much of it.
I think that going back to being a mom of a special needs child is, the biggest words of wisdom that I would have for someone else who was, new into the village, so to speak, is, just find your people. For a long time, I spent a long time thinking that I was on an island, that I was the only mom in the world that had a child with special needs, because it was very hard to find. But if you dig deep and you do your looking and you do your Google searching and your Facebook looking and things like that, you can find it. They're out there.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. And I've encountered an incredible group of women, and I have a special needs mom support group, and it's just so nice to, even though their children have different diagnoses than Jacob, it's so nice to be around women who get that we might be invited 5 times and say yes 1 out of those 5 times and things like that. So I would just say that that's really the only thing, is just being a mom, because I know how every mom thinks, is that, you think that you're the only one, but you're not. You're not alone. It just may take some legwork on your part to find those people, and do the legwork, because you'll definitely benefit from it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's really the only thing that I can think of. What about you?
No, I mean, I think we covered more on this in this show than I had initially thought we were going to. So that we pretty well, I think we got to. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of something.
Oh, it always happens.
know,
Of like
right.
10 minutes
Tomorrow
later.
morning,
Yeah.
Should've said that.
I'll have Brandy text you. You can edit it in later.
Well, post off. This is what we've got here. Something to add in. Another 5 minutes of
Right.
this. Let me read this for you
Yeah.
real quick. Now, as with people have quotes, people have inspirational people. Are there any words of wisdom or quotes or something that you want to kind of throw out there for people? You did that with talking about find your people, but just anything that pops in your head there to anybody in general out there in the world.
I can't think of anything right off the bat. I'm so boring.
Well, what you just said was pretty well hit the nail on the head for
Yeah.
it. But it was just one of those, like, I just figure sometimes.
Yeah, again,
they're out
like
there.
I think I said it before, just see the ability before the disability. Don't count somebody out just because they look different or get somewhere differently than you. Because I think that you'd probably miss out on some pretty awesome life experiences.
Yeah, the one thing I knew this before we ever had Jacob. I just never gave it a lot of thought because I didn't need to, but I knew it, that kids, especially with Down syndrome, are the happiest kids you are ever
my
going
gosh.
to meet in your life.
Yes.
I mean, they are the happiest kids. And so, treat them like you would any other kid. Or even better than any other kid, because you know what? They're probably going to be happier than most other kids, right? So,
But except when they're not happy, they're not happy.
they have no problem
And
letting you know when they're not happy as well.
They're also letting you know.
But yeah, it goes back to being inclusive, and being inclusive doesn't have to mean, hey, come play kickball with us. It can just be stopping and talking to them.
Yeah.
Like I see when I drop Jacob off at school in the mornings and his paras wheeling him into the class, there's kids getting off the bus that are at a full tilt run in going into the school. But as they run past Jacob, they'll say, "Hey, Jacob," as they're running by, and it's like that sitting there watching him being wheeled and just seeing a couple of kids just say, "Hey, Jacob," as they run by, like that means everything.
Oh, totally. Because
it's
the same relationships as you would see kids being able to run by and saying hi to their friends in the morning
Right.
in general, or just like at the park.
And they may not even be friends. They may just know who he is because they've seen him in the halls or whatever, but they don't think of him as something to be avoided. They think of him as, let me just say hey to him as I'm running past him. Even if that's the only 2 words I speak to him
They
the
see
whole
him.
day.
Like they see
Correct.
him. That's the
they
thing
see
at the end
him.
of the day.
They see him as, hey, that's just another kid that goes to my school.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing too, can I add one more thing?
Oh, dude, add whatever you
Okay.
want.
Is I think this will probably go for how they can be a good ally, but the last thing to discuss is don't tell someone that you're sorry that they have a diagnosis of Down syndrome. Never say that, because there is absolutely nothing to be sorry about. It's, and another thing too, two things is I have a lot of moms that say, I don't know how you do it. And
I've gotten that too.
my answer is always going to be, if it was your child, you would do it.
Yeah.
My answer is, I didn't know I had a choice.
Yeah.
True.
And
It's what
right.
is there another option?
Right.
No, you do it because it needs doing.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
And we also do it because it needs doing, but also because we have a love for Jacob that I didn't know that I could have for my child. But just, don't extend sympathy for somebody who has Down syndrome, because it's nothing to be sorry about.
No,
really
it isn't. I mean, but because that's the thing is at times our life is probably more challenging than yours. Mm-hmm. But we wouldn't trade it.
Right.
Indeed.
That's 100% true.
So
I would not change a
don't feel
single
sorry
minute.
for me. Yeah.
Not a single minute.
No.
That's something I look at every day. I look at every person. This is not aimed at one individual or a group of people. I don't know how anybody does anything outside of my own body. I'm like looking at it, I'm like, how do you do people's taxes? How do you like not explode on, a parent that's yelling at you? I'm like, everybody has something. That's why I look at in general, like everybody, there's a word, sonder. I'm going to be doing a podcast with a friend later, just discussing a word and going on a hike. And the word I've chosen is sonder. Audience, later, I'll give you some details about that as it kind of comes up closer. But it's everyone lives their own distinct, different life. And I'm so curious and open to the idea of I can't live that life, but I'm vicariously like excited, but at the same time so envious and jealous of someone else having an experience that I want to kind of see and feel, and but getting to see that joy of their successes and the joy of that they're becoming their own person's amazing. And so that's just getting to spend this time today has just been amazing, a true blessing. And that's just something you can't, the biggest gift you can give someone is your time. And that's
the only thing you don't get back.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true.
The only thing you can't get back on that. And I don't feel like we say it enough of like, I love you guys. Like that's the thing, we don't say I love you enough for people. So find that moment. This is my advice to my kind of takeaway. I think I've used this one like maybe every other episode, but it's say thank you, say I love you. Just kind of reach out to people that even if they made like the smallest of impact in your life, that's a big change that could have led to something else down the road. So just always be thankful and be happy about it. And that's live happy, good lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you both, Brandy, Carl, for coming on and sharing this with us. It's so heartwarming that you would be willing to give my audience and myself in this world your time and your story.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, any opportunity that we have to advocate for, not only Jacob, but just anybody who has, extra needs, happy to do it. So thank you very much.
And what I'm going to do is if anybody would like to reach out and get in contact with it, I'm going to say email me and I'll kind of connect together because I want to respect their privacy. If I don't want them to get bombarded with 50,000 just random emails here, I'll filter it through and I'll get that. If you want to contact me, anyone, it is Cade, which is spelled CADE at learningfromfriends.com. And you could also, I have a Facebook page. You can find me. I've got a Twitter page as well that you can be able to send me messages that way. There's the website. There's a Patreon if you would like to contribute, even if it's $1 a month or, 10,000. Heck, let's go with $1 million a month. That would be awesome. If you don't ask, you don't know, So we're out there. You can be able to reach out, contact any way you would like to. I hope you all are just having a wonderful day. And thank you for being here on the 50th episode of Learning from Friends podcast. And as we wrap up here, as you all know, my name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that I like to call Learning from Friends. And most of all, don't forget to let your curiosity fly high.